Hi, Clay. Thanks for being with us today. Could you talk to us a little bit about how you foresee the future of hygienic systems changing? What dynamics are afoot and what should people be thinking about?
Yeah, Diana, I think it's clear that the world's changing. We're in a different place, and it's going to affect our hygiene systems. In fact, I think hygiene systems are at the forefront of all of our minds right now. And as we look at the office hygiene system or high traffic hygiene systems, what we really got to start thinking about is in a world of a pandemic or even post-pandemic, what do we need to do differently to allow people to both be safe and probably as importantly, feel safe when they come into these environments. So really, as I see technology evolving, it's going to focus on those things is how do we provide the comfort and to reduce the fear that people have around being back at work. Because our job really is, we need to get people back to work, but do it safely. And so things I see changing are better information, giving people the information that, this restroom's been cleaned, as an example. Letting people know, right? Communicating and being transparent about what processes and what practices we're taking to ensure their safety in the workplace.
And as we think about cleaning and disinfection, what are some of the myths or misperceptions that people may have about how that process gets done efficiently?
I think the biggest myth out there probably is the fact that once you clean a surface, it immediately begins to be unclean, right? There are very few products out there that really provide persistent or long-lasting effect, and so you need to keep the frequency up, because once you clean the washroom, for instance, the next person who comes through, they're going to contaminate it, and it won't stay clean forever. And so finding products that can provide some persistence would really go a long way toward ensuring you're providing that protective environment.
So could you talk a little bit about what the science says about disease transmissions and therefore what customers or choosers should be thinking about in terms of hotspots or transmissibility?
I think the science on disease transmission is clearly related to vectors, right? That's the term the epidemiologists use. They talk about transmission vectors, and typically there are really two predominant ones. The two leading vectors for disease transmission in most environments are either surfaces or airborne. And so when you look at your environment, you need to think of those two things and go, where are there opportunities for a surface to be a potential source, a vector of disease transmission, and what am I doing about that place, right? So clearly, we all know, right, there are no bathroom doors in high traffic facilities anymore. Why? Because we know bathroom doors are surfaces that everyone touches after they go to the restroom, and unfortunately, we know many people don't use the sink when they go to the restroom. And so we've eliminated those doors, and it's really for that reason, is that's a high touch area that kind of mandates people touch it. So look through and ask yourself, where can I eliminate places where people have to touch? Where can I put procedures in place to ensure those places are cleaned regularly? And then how do I give people comfort that I've thought through these things, right? That we've made it so that you don't have to touch things, or if you do touch them, that we're cleaning them regularly. And then ultimately, it's how do we keep people far enough apart in the short term, at least in this next few months, so that they can operate safely, they can be in their facilities, whether it's a manufacturing location or it's an office building, and they can be comfortable if they have to wear a mask. And I think that's really the key, is if people put their mask on and their mask sits on their nose and doesn't actually cover their face, then it's doing nothing. And so if you can't get to that compliance, and to do that, you've got to bring comfort, then you're probably missing the boat.
Thanks. Well, good insight. And so what concepts are you and your team thinking about as you look forward into the future? What are some of the trends and changes that we'll begin to see in hygienic systems across any segment, whether it's healthcare or food service or office building? How are you thinking about that?
I think clearly we're going to continue to go toward no touch, right? And that's an obvious solution. If you don't have to touch a dispenser, if you don't have to touch product that's been exposed, those are definitely trends, that everyone's working toward, and they have been for a few years. I just think it's going to be accelerated. I think that the biggest trends that we're seeing is a people coming back to hand towels. And that's simply because the evidence is all out there. We do know that the high velocity air dryers do spread contamination around washrooms, and we see a big trend toward people taking those off the wall, shutting them off. We've seen them taped off, and going back to probably the hygienic solution, which is an individual hand towel. So after people wash their hands, they've got a solution that they know is sanitary and can not share their germs with the rest of the environment as well.
Clay, thank you for your comments. Appreciate you being here today.
Sure, thanks a lot.